Welcome, all you MCU fans, to the latest episode of True Believers here on the. Wait a minute. Are we really doing this podcast this way? This show on YouTube this way? Give me a second, folks. Let's see. NDA, yeah, sign that. Check. Okay, just hold on. Kevin. Oh, wait, Kevin. There. Can we talk about this podcast tonight?
That stands for Knowledge Enhanced Visual Interconnectivity Nexus.
Can we talk about this podcast tonight? Is this really how we're doing this podcast?
Hold on, let me crawl out here for a second. There, give me a second.
Wait, hold on. I do have some contractors in the studio. Give me 1 second. Yeah, guys, I said the fourth wall. You can take that down completely. It's just been obliterated.
Did you scroll through all? Did you scroll through all of the NDA there? I just want to make sure.
At this point, do we just even pay attention to it? I mean, it takes 20 minutes just to scroll through the damn thing.
Yeah, we pass all that legalese here on the Fandom Podcast Network, apparently, and so does She-Hulk herself at the Marvel Studios.
Kevin, I gotta say, you're looking a little different from the last time I saw you.
What's different, Kyle?
I could have sworn the last time I saw you, we were looking a little more metallic, a little camera-esque. You had a hat on. That was kind of cool. Hanging from the ceiling. Your voice sounded funny. Do you have a cold or something? Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's it. The Kevin. Yeah. I have people that will die for me.
You have a cult-like following. That's for sure.
But we're here to talk about She-Hulk, the episode 9. Whose show is this? Season finale.
Yes, a very interesting season finale. And Kevin, I'm going to be honest with you, one that I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this for a season finale in television ever. I can't think of anything quite like what we just watched.
Yeah, agreed. But I found it quite enjoyable, though. It was fun.
Absolutely. But wait, before we start going any farther, because we are going to be talking about She-Hulk episode 9, I've filled out all the NDAs. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is right. Spoiler alert. We are breaking every wall for this episode of She-Hulk and diving deep into all the happenings. Maybe we'll finally get an answer when we're going to see the X-Men. I don't know for sure on that, but we're going to find out as we dig into She-Hulk episode 9, which means, Kevin, let's not even delay, because who knows when somebody might actually think this is time to turn off this thing because there was an error in their broadcast or something like that. So can you take us into phase 1, sir?
I can. Let's do this. All right. This is episode 69 of True Believers. We are discussing She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, episode 9, the season finale. Episode name is Whose Show Is This? Episode aired on October, what was it? 11th, Kyle? Can't remember now.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Kevin, real quick. Is it She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, or is it the Savage She-Hulk?
Yeah, it depends on how you look at it. Yeah. Savage She-Hulk, definitely. All right, plus description. Here we go, guys. Walters is released from the DODC custody, but is forced to wear an inhibitor to prevent her from transforming, and loses her job at GLK&H. Nikki and Pug infiltrate an intelligentsia event where they learn that Phelps is hulking and Blonsky, as the Abomination, is serving as a motivational speaker. Walters arrives at the event and confronts Phelps, who injects himself with her blood and transformed into a Hulk. Come at me, bro! After Titania and Banner unexpectedly appear in the ensuing fight, a confused Walter destroys her inhibitor and breaks the fourth wall to confront the show's writers in Marvel Studios assembled. She meets with K.E.V.I.N, an artificial intelligence that claims to be in charge of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's storyline decisions, and persuades it to rewrite the finale, to which it reluctantly agrees. Returning to her show, she finds Phelps and Blonsky have been arrested. While celebrating with her family in Murdoch, Banner returns from Sakaar with his son, Scar. After regaining her job and being cleared of all charges, Walters vows to continue her work as a lawyer and as a superhero. And we did have a mid-credit scene. Wong breaks Blonsky out of prison and takes him to Carmartage. And there were some questions of Wi-Fi and also alluding to the fact that they've done this a few times, Kyle. There we go.
Wong running a little bit behind because it's quality TV time right now.
Yes.
Him and Madison.
Yes.
We needed. I mean, no Madison. That was the only disappointment for me.
No Madison.
At least her head poking through the portal, like "Hi, Abomination" or something like that.
We had some credit animation scenes of note. Blonsky looks like he's putting on taking his inhibitor off and putting it around the neck of one of his chickens, called Princess Silkfeather. We also had a couple other ones here. Of course, we had Kevin reading a She-Hulk comic, which I thought was kind of funny. So, anything else come to mind?
Oh, well, I don't know. Let's see. How about the amazing opening sequence where they paid complete homage to the classic Incredible Hulk series?
I love that she was in that machine that kind of rolled up, and
yeah.
But what sold it for me though was that Banner is next to her, and she's kind of like looking down a little bit, going, I'm better watch out or something, or I might Hulk out.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Yeah, and then Banner, Mark Ruffalo Banner is like doing that real cheesy kind of 70s lean acting kind of. Really funny.
Kevin, this whole episode was perfect right there because we got to see Mark Ruffalo in bell bottoms.
This is true, yes.
So yeah, no, you got that whole homage. What a way to kick off the episode. I mean, that was absolutely amazing. And from there, this episode is just, I know the internet is having their mixed bag feelings on it. To me, this was one of the most original and fun things I have seen on a TV show, and I can't remember when, Kevin.
Yeah, it definitely broke the fourth wall in a major way. They touch on the intelligentsia that, as you had correctly guessed, Kyle, that sound you hear is Kyle patting his back, and he should. That Todd started intelligentsia and basically brought a bunch of man trolls, so to speak, to his gathering, including Blonsky there in form of the Abomination as a speaker. And we get Nikki and what's his name? The coworker guy, Kyle?
Oh, Pug.
Pug getting Pug to infiltrate in there. And then, and then all of these Hulks start showing up.
Yep.
Things get a little messy, according to Jennifer Walters, and this is where we get a lot of the fourth wall breaking as well, as she's looking into the camera saying, "Is this what you want?" And so it's interesting how they address all of these kind of MCU tropes, right, Kyle?
Oh, right out of the get-go, we get them dealing with all these different types of tropes. They're setting up the classic Marvel style ending that people have been talking about for years now, and they just take it to absolutely this insane level, and then just the left turn hits, and it hits beautifully. We literally jump out of the screen in a way, and it's so perfect. And Kevin, you know how big of a Tatiana fan I am, but she was absolutely amazing in this episode from top to bottom. I love how the fact that when she goes to the writer's room, it's the actual writers of the show. Jessica Gao is there, Zeb Wells is there, a few other people. When she's thinking Kevin, she's thinking a person, obviously Kevin, the whole NDA thing, everything that happens when she gets in there, when she's, just some of the best lines of this show too. Between the conversation of her and Kevin, to the point where Kevin even creates a security fix that this can't happen again. So, but no, this episode was phenomenal, and I think people are going to be talking about this episode for a very long time to come.
Breaking out of the Disney Plus menu on the Disney Plus channel is very funny. And I just wanted to share a quick story because I was telling Kyle before we started was when I started watching this very early in the morning before I went to work, the show actually quit on me like a couple of minutes in. And I had to, restart, the She-Hulk thing and click into it. And then when this came up and it goes to the menu, I grabbed my remote going, what's going on? And then she starts talking. I'm like, oh, wow, they're going there. They're going there. So, yeah. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. Very, very kind of on the nose too about what kind of message they're trying to send and confirming that this is a legal comedy. They want to make that for sure. You okay there, Kyle? You keep looking around. You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I got some neighbors downstairs. They're making a little noise. That's all. That's all. It might be She-Hulk trying to break through the fourth wall. So
gotcha. Anyway, yeah, I will get more into the other things as well, but the fourth wall was a major part of this. But one of the more endearing things about this show that I think that if people understand and just kind of accept for those that are kind of on the fence about it, it's just a fun show.
Oh, it is absolutely a blast. And again, what I come to with this is that it's doing what they did in the comics, and that it's John Byrne especially. This was a lot more of John Byrne than it really was the later runs with She-Hulk. But John Byrne, he literally had pages drawn where you see She-Hulk coming out of the panel and walking into a different panel. And so it was taken right from that. And what I love about this too, Kevin, is with the whole thing with Jennifer Walters and Kevin. And that whole conversation was Marvel was not afraid to take some shots at themselves and some of the own criticisms the fans have had against them, but they did it in a way that was fun. And I think in some ways constructive, like, yeah, we do hear you. We do understand some of your things, but we're going to have a little fun with it as well. And that's a big muscle flex for Kevin Feige to be able to allow for that.
Especially when the line says, well, I let the internet sort that out,
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things was the whole daddy issues. Comment. Tony Stark has daddy issues. Thor has daddy issues. Loki, daddy issues. Same daddy. Chris, Star-Lord, two daddies, more daddy issues.
But yes. But the other thing that's important too, she mentions like, what about bringing Matt Murdock or Daredevil back? Girls got needs. And then he says, we've been lacking in that department, meaning they haven't really touched on the female side of some stories as well as much as they could with the main alpha males. They've obviously been spending a little more time on. So,
well, and Kevin, I did talk to you before the podcast. Did you write Tatiana into this particular show for me?
I did text her, have not heard back, but I do have a question for you, Kyle.
Yes.
The scene of the video of her character, Jennifer.
Yeah, I'm okay. Downstairs. I know what that was. We're okay. Jennifer Walters is breaking the fourth wall, ladies and gentlemen.
When they show the video of her dancing in college with that long hair that she has, did that look like one of the clones in the TV
Very
series?
much so. That was definitely a little bit of love to Orphan Black. Is she was looking like one of the clones from Orphan Black, and I actually thought the first time I saw it, it was so quick. I was wondering, did they take footage from Orphan Black and put it into this? But then when I saw it again, I was like, okay, I know what's going on here. So,
the cast, we had, of course, Titania back again, of course, and Charlie Cox came in towards the end there, which we had the total homage or just plain rip from the Fast and Furious endings. Family showing up and bringing more family and eating dinner outside, and even the way the food was kind of like being served, I thought that was kind of funny.
I found it absolutely hilarious that Daredevil just pops out of nowhere from the sky, not like from a building or tree. It's just like
superhero landing.
But I mean, it's just like there's nowhere he could have come from. He just like literally falls out of the sky. It's hilarious.
The thing that I like too about getting what's his name again? I'm sorry, the Todd Phelps, Hulk King.
Oh, Todd Phelps, yeah.
I liked the one thing that I thought was cool when You got Jennifer Walters explaining to Kevin the fact that he's a Hulk. He doesn't need to be a Hulk type character to be a villain. He himself is a villain. He doesn't have to, do the whole blood super serum Hulk thing that they've kind of alluded to in a lot of stuff and a lot of superhero stuff. There's always some type of serum or blood or whatever. And I like the fact he can just be a villain just because he can be a dick, And the Blonsky thing about him not having to turn into Abomination and be accountable for his actions. Yeah, he still gets broken out of prison by one later. But what about Hulk then wanting to explain something? He's like, wait for the movie. Yet at the end, he still shows up with a kid.
I think the whole I actually kind of like what they did here because it was fun because it let Jennifer say, "Oh, wait for the movie." It's establishing this is She-Hulk show. And then he shows up at the end. I think it was like you said, they were trying to do that Fast and Furious thing where, there's always somebody who shows up with somebody extra to the barbecue or something like that. So here's Hulk with Scar, who's actually a fairly major character in a certain part of Hulk lore. And now we've got this possible setup for later on with World War Hulk or some kind of revisit to Scar with maybe a Planet Hulk type film or show or something like that. So they had fun with it. I don't know. That was probably the one thing that kind of maybe didn't sit quite right with me, that introducing that character that way in this episode, because it's a fairly actually major Marvel character in some aspects. But you know what? They had fun with it. And again, to me, that whole thing is they were still establishing as Jen's show. And I got to tell you, if I'm Matt Murdock when that week is done, I don't know if I'm going back because that was a little uncomfortable family situation there.
Well, the character of Scar, I was just looking up, is played by Will Dusner. He's known for DC Stargirl and Shut Eye. And he's been acting since the age of 9. So, that's who that was. I guess I'll learn more about him later on. But, he's done some episodes of Stargirl. So I haven't watched that show. Have you? Do you know who he is, Kyle?
Oh, Stargirl. Yeah, I remember the episode he was on of that show. He was only on one episode. He was like kind of one of the villains of the week.
It's showing at least 5 episodes here. Joey Zarek is who he played.
Yeah. He was one of he was focused on in one major episode. He was in a few episodes as one of their classmates. He have like one little quick screen time or something like that.
Okay.
But
all right.
Well, but yeah, no, Kevin, we'll let you know more about Scar when the movie comes. Oh, wait, you're not getting a movie. Sorry.
Yeah. Like I said, I'll have to team up with someone. So let's get into the article review segment here. So Lacey Bauer is back on Den of Geek here, talking, of course, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, episode 9. The season 1 finale that breaks all the rules and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She goes on to say, throughout its first season, She-Hulk Attorney at Law has taken some big swings, creatively and narratively speaking. Its fourth wall breaking narration, procedural format, and lighter, more comedic feel have certainly set it apart from virtually every other entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to date. So we probably shouldn't be surprised that its season finale is truly unlike anything we've seen this franchise attempt before. Your mileage may vary on whether you think Whose Show Is This is a good ending to the She-Hulk first season, or if it's a satisfying wrap-up for the outstanding elements of Jennifer Walters' story that we've seen so far. But it's certainly a memorable episode that takes big, ambitious swings, and in a franchise known for the safety of predictability of its formulas, that's a pretty big deal. Did every joke land? Did the larger tongue-in-cheek commentary about Marvel Machine work? Not always, but at least this episode takes some big risks for good and ill. This episode's ending is wildly chaotic as Jen, Abomination, Titania, and even Bruce all end up crashing the intelligentsia meeting and facing off at various points. Deadbeat Todd, who turns out to be Hulk King because, of course, he is, injects himself with Hulk serum, and a massive fight between all parties looks set to break out. But instead of the battle royale we're all expecting, Jen basically interrupts her own story to tell us all that none of this makes sense. And it's an overstuffed, ridiculous way to bring the season to a close. And then she decides to do something about it, which, as it turns out, essentially involves not just breaking the fourth wall, but Hulk smashing it. Don't get me wrong, this is all kind of an amazing to watch and watch it unfold, especially for anyone who has invested years in the world of the MCU and its various ancillary and executive figures, which is, at this point, most of us, as She-Hulk literally punches her way through the Disney Plus menu to crawl into the Avengers Assemble's writing room, complain about her series ending, and set off a Wizard of Oz-like quest to find, quote, K.E.V.I.N that controls all things Marvel. The show takes an entire concept of meta to insane new heights. Because K.E.V.I.N isn't a person, he's K.E.V.I.N, aka Knowledge Enhance Visual Interconnectivity Nexus, the supercomputer that uses entertainment algorithms to craft the stories we see play out on screen. For Marvel fans, K.E.V.I.N is nothing short of hilarious, sporting a nameplate that looks exactly like the real Kevin Feige's omnipresent baseball cap, generally being wildly coy about the future of the franchise. When are we getting the X-Men? The lampshading some of the larger complaints about the MCU as a whole: daddy issues, lack of romance, repetitive endings, etc. But
Hey,
the question,
Kevin, I was going to ask you real quick. I wanted to stop here real quick. Is Kevin now the most important? Is this version of Kevin the most important Kevin on Kevin Day?
No.
Is it still Kevin Feige?
No, it is. It is. Kevin Feige is. Yeah.
Okay.
It is. But the question is, does this super meta detour work as an ending for She-Hulk, the show that we've spent 9 weeks watching? I'm not sure, Lacey says. I mean, it ultimately brings back Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock, dresses him in his pastels, and allows him to do a scene in the sunshine for once. And for that, I'm truly willing to forgive a lot, even if it still has no idea what the purpose of Titania was as a character.
Yeah, I can get that. Titania was that whole part of Titania was just strange. It was that felt so out of place. That was one of the things that did really feel out of place with everything. It was just like, but you were just throwing everything against the wall and see what either broke or stuck.
Forgive me, I have to cough there. Thank you for picking up the ball there, Kyle. Yeah, I'm wondering if she was just a vessel to let you know. That just kind of came to me. Let's talk about this real quick, Kyle, before I read the rest of this. I kind of get the feeling that she was a vessel to let us know that there are plenty of other super beings that have kind of everyday things going on, people like we know, in addition to trying to be more than what they want to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and I think that's a valid point. I again, and we talked a little bit about this on Werewolf by Night too. I think Marvel is really taking the time to expand different things and let us see some different perspectives. And I think Titania is one of those perspectives to kind of see like the everyday superpowered person in the Marvel universe.
Right. Yeah. Well, Lacey goes on to say the show doesn't really explore much of the emotional fallout from the events of last week's award gala, in which the public was all too willing to turn on Jen and label her a monster because she allowed herself to get justifiably angry. And while it's great to see Todd punished for his crimes, his personal connection to Jen sort of dilutes some of the story's larger points about online groups like Intelligentsia and the real harm they do to women. You know, I was thinking about this, that Kyle, regarding her point here, which is a really good point. I'm wondering, though, that the way that this show opened up with the whole kind of, you know, poking fun at it in a way by using the original Hulk opening, kind of lets you know that there was this big fervor of media outrage or support probably for this, just like we would get in any type of celebrity type of issue that would jump out there. You got the people jumping on him, you know, calling them the devil, and then you got people jumping and supporting them. That was just to kind of move the plot forward, I think. Yes, what happened to her was a big deal and emotional, but we got a little bit of the family thing going on. So I don't know if it necessarily, throws it out, with the bathwater. I don't know. What do you think?
I think they hit a few interesting points on this when the other attorney, Mallory, is talking to Jen about what happened, and she makes it kind of clear that people always when people see a woman who's angry, they always kind of go, "Oh, she's out of control" or something like that. And then she kind of makes the point, "You're a Hulk," so that ups that out of control factor by at least 1,000. And so when people see her angry, there's this whole envisionment of Bruce being the angry, rage-filled Hulk. So instant panic. And it's again, I think it's kind of exemplifying too. It is being an example of people jumping to reactions when they see somebody angry, and some stereotypes certain people have, especially with women, about when they get angry and how some people react when they are angry. And so I don't really think I think it kind of hit on it and kind of made a point about it. And I don't really even see his personal connection to Jen diluting the storyline a little bit, because there are people out there. I think it reflects more of the people out there who are so willing to stalk somebody or implant themselves into somebody's life just to then turn around and betray them and make a fool out of them online or something like that. And I think that's something that's very real in our society now. And I think it's showing that, hey, this problem does exist and these groups are out there, but they are willing to get personal.
I think it's also a reflection of what's happening with kids in high school that are, and even earlier, that are on social media and online bullying and stuff like that. And I think it's an important thing to remember that this is a TV series, but it does reflect this more serious stuff that is actually happening. So that's a fair point, I think. So yeah. Anyway, Lacey goes on and finishes up saying, Jen herself says that her stakes are about life falling apart, just as she was learning to balance both sides of her identities. She says, I'm not entirely sure this episode ever fully comes back around on that theme. Don't get me wrong, She-Hulk's line about coming for those who harass or harm innocent people as both a lawyer and a superhero is great, and a fine mission statement for what kind of character she will be going forward. But this episode doesn't do the best job at trying its two halves, Jen's journey and its larger meta observations about storytelling in this franchise, into something that feels cohesive. The finale ultimately ends with the focus in the right place on Jen and her story, and that matters, especially given that the original ending would likely have made her, at best, a bit player in her own show. And avoiding that feels like progress that's worth celebrating. And she rated this a 4 out of 5. I think she's right. I think it landed the ending. I guess the point that she's making, and what I liked about her breaking the fourth wall to change this ending, is to make it more grounded. And that's one of the things that's been very endearing about this show, Kyle, is that we're getting a lot of people on the street observations about our heroes. People like us, as I've always said, if we were thrown in the Marvel universe, this is questions and comments that we might be asking ourselves or those of our heroes. And I think that with her also saying, I'm learning about myself in addition to having this alter ego, I think there was a pretty good balance there. I understand Lacey wanting to maybe a little more of something else and wanting to see it flushed out a little bit more, but with a quick show like this, I think it was balanced pretty well. What are your thoughts about that?
See, I think it's interesting because I disagree with Lacey a little bit here, because I do think it was very balanced, because I think a lot of that balance for She-Hulk hit in the last episode, in episode 8, with that. I think she kind of got to that place. And how many of us have been like feeling like, okay, we're finally in a good place. We've been through a lot. We're in a good place. We're feeling good. If everything feels balanced, and then out of nowhere, that curveball comes. In this case, the curveball for Jennifer is the intelligentsia and what they did to her at the end of the prior episode, and the position it's put her in. And here she is now. She can't be She-Hulk right when she's exactly when she felt like she could be She-Hulk and Jennifer and had that balance. And so now she's kind of feeling like she's missing a little bit of a piece of herself that she can't access.
Right.
And
Right.
I think the fact that when it comes down to, wait a minute, things are getting out of control in my show, she takes the courage and the strength. I disables the inhibitor, breaks the fourth wall, and says, I'm setting this right because damn it, this is my show. This is about me. It's not about this Marvel plan.
And someone else coming to rescue her, you know.
Yeah, and somebody, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Somebody else coming in rescue. And the fact that, again, I'm going to go back to kudos to all the people at Marvel and Kevin Feige who had to greenlight this to be able to say, yeah, we are changing the script on you. We're admitting to some things here that you have been for years maybe trying to throw under the bus. And it's like, we know, and here we are. We're doing something about it, and we are not the same Marvel that we were 5 years ago. And
That's
I think this show
point.
really represents that. And I think, again, Kevin, I'm going to go back to Phase 4 has been something entirely different for the MCU. And yes, it's not been for everybody. And I don't think the point for Marvel was it was for everybody. It was the point of, we're trying new things. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, so be it. But we're expanding our horizons, not sticking to our formula. And I think She-Hulk is kind of the apex of that.
I liked how Kevin addressed that in that, you know, that some things work, some things don't, but he lets the internet, debate that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. One other thing I want to talk about with the Kevin thing too was when they were talking about the expense of the PG and the CG, I should say.
Yeah,
he's like
the expense of the CG, the budget. Yeah.
And he's like, well, we can't really do that effect because all the VFX people have moved on to another project. And if you listen real carefully, you hear the Wakanda drums playing.
Very, very clever. I would love to know, was it Kevin that came up with let's have me as an AI instead of a person, or did someone else present that to him and he's like, I'm game for that?
Okay, so here's what I know of this. And so Jessica Gow's done a bunch of interviews lately, and one of the interviews, basically, she came in and she said, I wrote like 20 different endings. I tried to give the Marvel, quote unquote, Marvel ending because that's what I felt I should do. And Kevin looked at it and said, what are you doing? This show is completely different than anything. Dude, you go do what you want to do. Go do the ending you want. So she came up with this. Kevin Feige was on board, and basically his only criticism was because originally apparently the AI device wore an actual hat, and he's like, no, a robot's not wearing a hat. So that was his only stopping point. So they fixed it so it looks like he's wearing the metal hat. Otherwise, Kevin Feige let it roll.
That's awesome. That's good to know. Yeah. All right, well, let's get into Phase 2 with some trivia. All right, so as we mentioned, the cold open is a parody of the Incredible Hulk 1977 TV series. I got to tell you, Kyle, the way that they filmed that with the grainy footage and the kind of blocky acting and the I don't know who the other actress was that was dressed up as She-Hulk hulking out. I don't know if that was the on-set Hulk actress, maybe? You think so?
It was.
Oh, it was. Okay.
Yeah.
That was cool. You got her in front of the camera then. And, the way that was done to the news, that she is a monster and all that kind of stuff, but then just the flashbacks to the Hulk acting. That hit a lot of nostalgia points for me, Kyle, because I used to watch that show all the time, just as you did, I'm sure. Yeah.
I all the time growing up, and I gotta say, especially getting that grainy footage after just watching Werewolf by Night a few days ago, I was like, yeah, I'm feeling really nostalgic for like 70s and early 80s television. Right
yes, yeah. When Jennifer scrolls through her text messaging app, one text message from Grant reads, "A full commitment's what I'm thinking of. You shouldn't get this from another guy." These are lyrics from Rick Astley's song, "Never Gonna Give You Up." We just got Rickrolled.
Yeah, I was going to say, we got even She-Hulk can Rickroll us.
Jen's room is decorated with posters from several legal-themed movies, including Legally Blonde. I thought that was an excellent touch.
Yeah, having the Aaron Brockovich poster in there as well.
Yes. As we know, the robot Kevin is a reference to Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige. There's a part of me, Kyle, that I wish he would have at least had a cameo in this. Maybe not as himself, but it would have been just, I don't know, since you got a couple of the writers on camera, it would have been nice to have seen him, like, maybe if he was like one of the security guards that got his butt kicked or something.
Yeah, that would have been fun. That would have been fun.
The beginning of the episode is a recreation of the Kenneth Johnson 1978 Incredible Hulk series, including Tatiana Maslany stating the famous Bill Bixby line, "Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry." I laughed so hard at that. That was good. Jen's room has an Aaron Brockovich 2000 poster on the wall, as well as the 2022 Captain Marvel actress Brie Larson in developing the TV series Lessons in Chemistry 2023 with Susanna Grant, the writer of the film. Grant will be serving as a showrunner in the series. And I liked how they're kind of giving each other little plugs here and there. I like that.
Oh, yeah. They're a little family. But speaking of family, I like this one. 3 of the writers in the She-Hulk that the She-Hulk confronts in the writers' room of Marvel Studios are actually the writers in the series: Jessica Gao, Zeb Wells, and Cody Ziegler. So, I mean, they got everybody involved in this.
Yeah, that was great. And there was 4 Hulks and 1 Abomination in this episode. Kyle, was there ever an issue of Hulk or Marvel anything that had 4 Hulks and 1 Abomination in the episode?
Yes, there has been.
Yeah.
Yes, there has been.
I had to ask. The ending of this episode mirrors the endings of the Fast and Furious movies. Usually some movies of the franchise end with the characters having brunch. You know, whoever grabs food first has to say grace first. Someone new coming to the table. Of course, we have Scar showing up. And even the house, because normally the parents' house was shot either at night or from a different angle, but this was during the daytime. It even looks like the Fast and Furious house a little bit. Did you notice that?
Yeah, a little bit. Speaking of daytime too, Kevin, I got to admit, when she talked about moving it from night to daytime, when she's talking to Kevin, you were the first person I thought of. I'm like,
why is that, Kyle?
Because Kevin hates things shot at night.
Especially with a bunch of CG. And by the way, seeing Daredevil new gold and kind of, I guess, burgundy color, red color outfit in the daytime, it really pops. This, when I first saw this, I was like, nah, bring me back like the red one. But I gotta tell you, this is growing on me.
Yeah, it's a fun costume. I'll be curious to see how much of it he wears when they do Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah, I'm curious. The way that the K.E.V.I.N AI system is portrayed is very similar to the murderous Al GLaDOS from the Portal video games. His name is an obvious reference to Kevin Feige, president of Marvel Studios. And that's GLaDOS, capital G, capital A, capital L, small a, DOS. GLaDOS. Kyle, you know this better than I do. Explain.
The cake is a lie. That's all you need to know. Truthfully, it's the Portal video game is a very popular video puzzle type game. GLaDOS kind of is this AI that puts you in this situation that you've got to work through this maze. She keeps promising that there will be cake, but it's not. The cake is a lie. Kevin, you are actually familiar with GLaDOS in a roundabout way.
Oh yeah.
The voice for GLaDOS in the game was the same voice used for the computer systems of the Jaegers in Pacific Rim.
Oh, I like those movies. Okay.
Yes, at least
cool.
The first one.
All right. I'm a fan of this. I'm a fan of the second one. My daughter liked that one too. So anyway, take us to the break, man.
Yeah. I got to go fix some fourth wall things. She-Hulk still smashed a few doors and stuff like that. Started on my poor kitties, and these fourth wall things, especially when you go through the Disney Plus menus, it's noisy and it startles people. What are you gonna do? But you know what? While I go clean things up, here's what else is happening around the Fandom Podcast Network. When you hit the wrong button, because fourth wall breaking. It's one of those shows, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin's really rewriting it on the fly. Let's try this again. Take 2.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blood of Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our fandom flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville Show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
Kevin, are you there? Kevin?
Oh, I'm here.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure you didn't go through any walls while we were on the break or anything like that. We don't have it in the budget to break any more walls. I'm just saying.
All right, right. I've been having the episode replay while we've been doing this, and it's been fun just, watching this over again. And I'm at the dinner scene at the end. It's very funny.
Well, let us take off into phase 3. So normally we talk plot analysis here, Kevin, and there's some interesting things, but I want to add, there's a particular question I want to ask you, Kevin, because obviously the fourth wall breaking is absolutely huge in this episode. There's so many things that happen, but I want you to give me like maybe your top 3 fourth wall breaking moments, whether, it's certain things she did in the conversation with Kevin, some of those things, because I'm curious, because there's so many little nuanced things in here as well.
I liked it was subtle in this episode where she's lying on the bed and the voiceover starts with that music and she's like, no, we're not doing that. But the one that I thought was really clever was when Wrecker was being introduced again. And then I didn't know who he was at first. And she says, why are they bringing this guy back? And then well, let's do the previously on, and then they show the Wrecker crew attacking her in the on the street and stuff like that. I thought that was very clever. That one jumps out at me for obvious reasons, other than this episode, which really went deep into the the whole Marvel Studios thing, which I thought was a very clever thing to do, because I think that for people that do watch this, that was an important thing to do, to kind of ground people a little bit more that get really caught up in it. And I will admit, Kyle, I may have broken the fourth wall myself, explaining my frustrations for this phase 4. And you've kind of kept me grounded a little bit. I know I'm getting off on a tangent here, but yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that.
No.
What about you?
I think the X-Men question line was hilarious. I thought of you for that one too, because I know you've been like, when are we
especially when she looks at the camera and does the little
the little thumbs up thing is just
because everyone's asking that right now. So this is very timely that they did that, and with the updated menu of Disney Plus of what is popular, including the Baby Groot specials and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah. The other thing too I loved is, and I just think it's a great line, because it's like, can we bring Daredevil back, because a girl's got needs.
Yes.
I thought that was great in this episode. I just Kevin, I come back to it just to have the ability and to have the freedom that these writers were obviously given to take such a drastic change from everything we know of the MCU. I give it to Jessica Gao, Zeb Wells, everybody in that writing room. I give it to Kevin Feige for allowing it to happen. I give it to Tatiana Maslany because she has been great at breaking the fourth wall, because not every actor can do this.
Yes,
It's actually
this
very
is true.
few that can do this. Ryan Reynolds obviously is on another level, but I gotta tell you, Tatiana might be on that same level because she just nailed it throughout this show.
I'll go as far as I think she's eclipsed him because she's been given the material and the writing to be able to do that. And then with her acting prowess, because she's with Orphan Black, Kyle, you can back me up more on this because you finished the show. It's such a serious show. But seeing a comedic side of her,
well, especially as the Allison character or the Helena character in that show, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think she's, I'll be honest with you, when it comes to fourth wall breaking, I'm trying to think of everything that I've seen where they've broken the fourth wall. I think that she has not only excelled at it, in a way, she's mastered it. So props to her. But I did want to bring something up in this section, Kyle. They really let Jen explore her sexuality in this series as well. Whether it's her and her friends talking about her dates, whether it's her, dressing up as Hulk in the gown, her teasing about, Matt Murdock and all that kind of stuff. We haven't normally got this type of thing in the Marvel MCU, and they acknowledge it in the conversation she has with Kevin at the end. I want to get your thoughts on that because I've found it very refreshing. I mean, the last show that I really remember where you got to see girls be girls and girls talk like girls that really was hugely popular and done really, really well was Sex and the City, I guess.
I went in expecting some of that because that's just the She-Hulk character. One of the things they've always played up in the Marvel comics is She-Hulk's sexuality.
Oh, okay.
And they've never shied away from it in the comics. So I wasn't really shocked that we saw it, but again, I thought they handled it fairly well. And again, it's all the credit to not only Tatiana Maslany, but the cast as a whole, because you really did kind of get that girl, especially with her and Ginger Gonzaga, who they had a chemistry, like they got that girlfriend vibe. These are the things they were going to talk about, and they weren't afraid to talk about. And I think that's one of the other things that I really like about She-Hulk too. And you talk about, with like Titania being like the everyday person, Jennifer Walters comes across, because of how Tatiana plays her, she's just somebody who wants to live her life. You look at every superhero in one way or another that has gotten powers that we've seen in the MCU. They're extraordinary for some more than a regular person. You look at Tony Stark, billionaire, philanthropist, superhero. Steve Rogers, super soldier. Even before he became, there was something that super special quality about him. Hawkeye, through all the training, the spy. Black Widow, even like Peter Parker, he's above level genius for a kid his age. Jennifer Walters, yeah, she's an accomplished attorney. She's a smart person, but she's also just somebody you could meet in daily life and not think anything of it.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's another reason why I think the character is so identifiable in this show.
Gotcha.
So I think this show is hit on every level, Kevin, and that also, we've talked a little about throughout the show. To me, the biggest comic tie-in into this has been the fourth wall breaking. That is something that She-Hulk is famous for.
That's interesting you say that. I don't mean to interrupt you, Kyle, but when you said comic, when you were starting that sentence, I didn't expect you to say the breaking the fourth wall. I thought it might have been one of the characters they've dropped in. So I find that fascinating. I guess that is staying true to the character, I guess, right?
Yeah, it is staying true to the character. And I mean, yes, we saw the Wrecking Crew, a more comic looking version of the Abomination, and Tim Roth was phenomenal in this series too. I had a ton of fun with Tim Roth, and this definitely seeing a side of Tim Roth we haven't really seen before.
Yeah.
I love the guest appearances. Charlie Cox is always great as Daredevil. It was wonderful to see him again. Wong, Benedict Wong, back playing Wong, the glue of the Phase 4 of the MCU. You're just, to me, there was nothing on this show that didn't hit a really bad note. Everything was fun. Everything was entertaining, and the comic ties worked because they didn't try to force them. They had some fun with them, and they took some characters who could have come across as kind of corny, had a little fun with them to make them fun.
Okay, before you wrap things up, I got a question for you that I was kind of curious about, because I think Lacey mentioned it in her Den of Geek article, and I'm sure there might be some people that agree with this. If there was a disappointment because we saw all of these other scenes about her having her blood taken, her blood in this, special vial and this special room, and all this thing. Anyway, Intelligentsia, Todd behind it, he cops to it. So my question is, from what I understand in her article, Intelligentsia is a more menacing villainy type group in the comics, but now it looks like it's turned into just this vanity project that Todd put together and paid for to get what he wanted from her, yet they rewrote it. So in a way, it makes Intelligentsia kind of like this thing that really doesn't land that people were hoping it would be, because they decided to make this fourth wall breaking turn towards the end and make it more about Jen, and Intelligentsia isn't necessarily as important as it was first teased to be. It was more about her dealing with two parts of her and the people that may look badly on her for when she does Hulk out, I guess.
I'm not 100% convinced that Intelligentsia couldn't have a bigger role somewhere along the line. I still think there's something within this show and that blood. It was for some Captain America, possibly New World Order, the kind of things. Only because we know the leader is going to be the villain, and there is a lot of leader Hulk connections. Side note to that, it looks like Harrison Ford will be cast as Thunderbolt Ross, but in fact, Marvel's confirmed this. So
that's awesome. That is really, really cool.
That's going to be an interesting casting and how that's going to play out, because he's going to be in Captain America New World Order. That's what he's cast to be Thunderbolt Ross, which makes me wonder if we see him as Red Hulk by the end of that movie for Thunderbolts. So I'm kind of curious about that. Little side note there, because there's been a lot of rumors going around. There's going to be one more I hit before we get out of here. But as far as just the Intelligentsia thing, it could be played more. It could be left at this. I don't know. Because I think this is one interesting point I heard on another podcast when they were talking about She-Hulk. Because of now She-Hulk breaking the fourth wall so drastically, do they feel like they can include her in other films where she's more serious? Because you got her in a film situation where maybe she can't break the fourth wall,
right,
and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out. There are a lot of rumors floating around that Marvel is already making plans for season 2 of She-Hulk. I'm, of course, if it gets Tatiana on my screen, I'm all in. I love this character.
Our friend David Senden sent me a link to that. And that's the first I'd heard of everything that, and I don't think it's official, but it's definitely one of the fan sites had gotten word of it. So yeah,
I'm hoping so. So before we close out of here, Kevin, I do have one more question for you. We are at the end of the run of She-Hulk. We're about to get kind of into a break in the MCU. We've got Black Panther coming up. I've heard today it was announced the Marvel Zombies animated series is only going to be 4 episodes, so maybe we see that before the end of the year, right after the first of the year. We have obviously November 11th, Wakanda Forever. We have in December the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. Then a little bit of a break until February with the Ant-Man show. The Ant-Man Quantumania movie. I'm suspecting we'll either see the Marvel Zombies or maybe season 2 of What If, maybe to fill in some of that gap there a little bit. But as we wrap up Phase 4, I want to ask you, because I think She-Hulk has been something entirely different from anything we've seen in the MCU. What are your overall thoughts on She-Hulk?
just to clarify, Wakanda Forever is wrapping up the fourth wall, right? Or fourth wall.
Fourth wall, yeah.
Is wrapping up phase 4, correct?
Yeah. Wakanda Forever is wrapping up phase 4. However, Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special is kind of like the epilogue for phase 4, is what Kevin Feige has said.
Gotcha. So the question being, I have been pleasantly surprised by She-Hulk, and I after watching the first episode, I went in with an open mind. I knew that there was going to be some fourth wall breaking after talking with you and hearing some things. But because it was Tatiana Maslany, I wasn't sure. I didn't expect her to be as funny as she was. And so that was a pleasant surprise. I've seen her seriously acted in serious roles, obviously, but I didn't expect that. And so that just lended well to not only enjoying the character of She-Hulk, but also Jennifer Walters. It also helped me accept what this show was trying to be. And I was like, okay, so this is a comedy, basically. That's the first thing I had to come to peace with it. And I was completely fine with that because it was nice to walk into a Marvel thing I had not seen before and not be so darn serious. It was nice to relax and just watch something fun and, an easy watch. When I call something an easy watch, it means that it's paced well, it's not very long, and it does what it does, and it entertains you. And that's exactly what this is. But it does want me wanting more of this character. Not necessarily what She-Hulk can do in some She-Hulk fighting, but I want to learn more about Jennifer Walters, because Tatiana Maslany in the Jennifer Walters scenes have really made that character fascinating. Just like you would watch either Ally McBeal or any of these, Boston Legal, all these great legal shows, LA Law, what have you. There's certain characters that you get attached to in the leads or in the secondary roles, and we got emotionally invested in not just Jennifer Walters, but her friends, her coworkers, and even some of the villains. So yeah.
I agree with everything you said, Kevin. I think this is, like I said, I give Marvel a ton of credit for taking some risks finally, and in some of the things they've done in phase 4. But this show especially, I think it was so different, and I think it was also needed. And I talked about this a little bit when She-Hulk first started coming out, Kevin. Everything has been so serious, so dark, so heavy, with not only Marvel, but just across the board in the shows that have been coming out of late. We haven't had too many fun, lighthearted things. One thing that comes to mind for me is a show you and I both really love on Amazon, Upload. That's been a fun, lighthearted thing, not heavy or anything like that. She-Hulk has really, I think, filled a void that we haven't had in a long time. And I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. I know not everybody has enjoyed it, and that's fine. But for me, I enjoyed it. It gave me something fun. It gave me something lighthearted. And you know what? It was something that honestly I was looking forward to, because I knew I wasn't having to necessarily get deep involved in this plot, this heavy plot where, like, if I missed something for 5 seconds, I was totally lost. It was just fun to watch, see an actress who I absolutely adore and have nothing but the utmost respect for her acting ability and her as a person, just make me, in a way, fall in love with her all over again, because I could easily crush on Jen Walters. That's not even an issue. And just seeing these characters and these people that I love, She-Hulk was a hit. And I can honestly say, Kevin, I'm going to be easily ranking in my top 3 of the Disney Plus shows that we've gotten so far.
It's a good way to put it. I could see why. Definitely. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I could definitely put it up there as well. Like I said, fun, easy watch. Just as you mentioned, Upload. Like half-hour episodes. And even though there is a little bit of a serious plot that we find out more about that show, this still has its moments that can be a little serious too. When it comes to emotion and when we feel that Jennifer Walters gets played and gets betrayed, we can feel that hurts. And so it's nice that they can still throw in a little drama there to keep it grounded somewhat, for even though she's superhero, the non-superhero stuff that she's going through, we can feel that pain and we can understand that.
I want to say one thing, Kevin. The only thing that needs to happen in season 2, if season 2 comes out, that we haven't gotten yet, Josh must be smashed.
Yeah, I feel like the character of Josh is gonna come across, because that would be really fun if she came across Josh again and maybe found a way to equally embarrass him.
Yeah, exactly. So, but with that, Kevin, I want to hit one more thing that's outside of the She-Hulk realm because it's been making the rumor waves in the last couple of days. Spider-Man. There's a lot of rumors that July 12th, 2024, we will get Spider-Man 4, and Spider-Man 4's plot will come out of Daredevil Born Again, and possibly by the end of Spider-Man 4 will also lead into into Deadpool 3 and the coming of Deadpool into the MCU. Now, I find this fascinating because I think there could be some truth to this, because Spider-Man and Deadpool have a very interesting relationship in the comics.
Mm.
So I could see where they maybe will try to play up on that a little bit and maybe have Deadpool appear in a stinger or something at the end of Spider-Man 4. Again, rumors out there right now. There's a lot of Marvel rumors going around because that's what happens with Marvel. Normally, I don't like to throw those out, but this one just seemed fun to me, and I find it very interesting because, one, we know Born Again is happening. With all the shuffling Marvel has done in movies, if the fact they're going to sneak a Spider-Man movie in there makes sense, and then we know the importance of Deadpool 3 for the MCU. So it's all rumors, but it's fun.
I think it would be very important to get Daredevil, Spider-Man, and Deadpool together on screen in a big screen format, because that bringing Daredevil alone to the big screen is a big issue, or not a big issue, a big thing to happen for fans. And seeing them have a moment, I mean, obviously we got Matt Murdock, but we want to see him as Daredevil. We want to see him kick butt. And the dichotomy between the personality of Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and Wade, I think would be very interesting to see.
Yeah. Just like we talked about with Werewolf by Night, Spider-Man trying to have a conversation with Man-Thing. Spider-Man Deadpool conversation that could be quite interesting. So
definitely. Well, anyway, man, take us out, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's close out this final phase and tell you where you can find the Fandom Podcast Network. Got to sneak in that last little bit of gamma radiation before we close out on She-Hulk. But of course, this is the Fandom Podcast Network. You can find us on our homepage at fpnet.podbean.com. You can visit our YouTube channel. Hopefully you've been enjoying the videos we put up, and of course, give us a like, give us a share, give us a subscribe. You can also find us on Facebook, whether it's the Fandom Podcast Network Facebook page, where we try to keep you up in all the happenings in fandom. Shout out to all you Harry Potter fans. Today was a tough day with the Robbie Coltrane news. Love Robbie Coltrane. Love you Harry Potter fans out there. Also, our True Believers page on group on Facebook, where we keep you updated on everything going on in the MCU. You can contact us directly by email, fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram, Fandom Podcast Network, on Twitter @FanPod Network. You can find me, Kyle, on Twitter @AKyleW, or on Instagram, hey, Tatiana, call me. I'm just saying. Or actually, it's @AKyleFandom. Kevin, where can people find you on the social medias these days?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, both @Spartan_Phoenix. And of course, you can find me in the True Believers Facebook group there as well, and on Facebook.
Yep, absolutely. Now, True Believers is going to take a little bit of a break here. Kevin and I got a lot of things going on around the Fandom Podcast Network. Kevin's got some new algorithms he's got to generate to, get the proper entertaining podcasts out there.
Yeah, I'm going to transform into my Hulk version, but because we don't have a budget here at Fandom Podcast Network, I'm going to do it off screen.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But no, what we will be back though, because in November a very big film hits. A movie I have been said I am very excited for. November 11th, I'm actually seeing it on the 10th as an early showing. I've got my ticket. Wakanda Forever is going to be here, Kevin. I think this is going to be a very emotional movie for a lot of MCU fans. It's going to be our chance, I think, really to say goodbye and close the book on Chadwick Boseman as well, and get some final piece with that. But I'm excited. Namor's coming. I'm just finding out who the new Black Panther is, and we will be covering everything Wakanda Forever here on the True Believers podcast.
I have to, I'm not sure when we'll record that, but that 13th, I'm off to Australia.
Australia, Wakanda. I mean, kind of the same. One
We'll
just has
figure it-
Adam
we'll-
O'Brien.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, one has Adam O'Brien, one doesn't. I'm just saying.
I know, right? Yeah.
Of course, too, there's a couple other great ways, Sports Fandom Podcast Network, TeePublic. Visit our TeePublic store at teepublic.com. Of course, we love reviews too, especially on iTunes or iHeartRadio, where you can find all of our great podcasts and on any of the major podcast catchers. But we want to thank you guys for joining us for this ride of She-Hulk. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. We've enjoyed talking about it. It's been a lot of fun. I'm hoping season 2 comes back. And I'm just excited for where we're headed. But you know what, guys? As always, even when we do break the fourth wall, we like to say, as we say around here, Excelsior, and fourth wall or not, make ours Marvel.